Today, the first reading gives us a fascinating account of a woman and her son who were quite poor and running out of food. All they had left was some flour in their jar and a little bit of oil in their jar, and they knew that once they made their last bit of bread with it, that they were out of food and would starve to death. The prophet Elijah appeared and asked them if she could please give him some bread and something to eat. And she pointed out that this was all she had left. But Elijah told her to fear not, for if she fed him, that God would replenish her flour and oil. And the woman felt like she was in a pretty tough situation, whether she should trust him and go ahead and feed him and run out of food for her and her son, or would those jars be replenished like he said? So that's a tough situation. If you were in her shoes and you had only a little bit of flour and oil left, and someone asked you for bread and to not worry that God would replenish your flour and oil, you might not believe them and think they were crazy, and you would make your last bread, eat it, and die. So which would you do? Well, this woman trusted him and made the bread, gave it to him, and sure enough, her flour and oil were replenished by God, and she and her son didn't starve. Paralleling that is a story in the gospel today where Jesus talks about a poor woman who had very little money, but she came to the temple and gave a couple of coins, while the rich people gave a lot more than she did, but it came from their surplus because they had plenty of money for themselves. But Jesus applauded her for doing that. So when we read the first reading and the gospel, what we're really talking about there is trusting God and being generous, helping other people financially or otherwise. So here's the question. Are we really that generous? Do we help people out by giving them money? And are we fully generous, or do we only give them what we think we can afford because we're so worried about not having enough for ourselves? In my time, I've seen several people who are not very wealthy at all, but give generously, whether it's money or helping other people, even though they can barely get by. And I've asked them, and they say that we do it because we don't worry. Because it seems that every time we're close to running out, something always appears. And we end up having enough money to buy what we need. They believe that God provides them what they need. They trust God and they don't worry. So when they have, they give. That's deep faith, trusting God. And that inspires me to trust God more and to not worry about where things are coming from. And again, the reading and the gospel are really inviting us to do two things: to trust God and to be generous financially or otherwise and help other people. Thank you, and God bless you.